We're rolling. Don't ask me questions, okay? I'm upset about what just happened. There's nothing I can do about it.
I thought you were going to go Limp Bizkit. Rolling.
No, that's not where I was going. I was going with that throwback Walmart commercial. Yeah. Do you remember that? When they had the smiley faces.
Mm-hmm. And they would do all the rollbacks.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
I can't remember the last time I went into a Walmart.
I avoid it like the plague.
Me too. Did I tell you about the time I took Arlen into Walmart and he goes, can we just go to Target? He was like, it smells bad in here.
Oof.
I mean, to be fair, though, Walmart and Target are directly across the street from each other, and it is more convenient from the direction that I come to pull into Target.
Yeah.
So,
that's...
No shade, Walmart.
When I was young, I thought Target was for rich people.
Yeah.
Because it kind of was.
Well, it's French.
Target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get started.
Hi.
Hello. Today, we are going to do true crime confessions that were fake. And we got the top 5 for you. So let's go ahead and get into it, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking to yourself, fake confessions? Why would we ever do that?
Nobody would do that. You wouldn't confess to something you didn't do.
Exactly. That doesn't make sense. And then if you did do that for some reason, unbeknownst to us, why would the court allow that? Why would we ever find that to be acceptable? Well, there's lots of reasons, and we'll go ahead and get into them, okay?
And they're all going to make you real mad.
Real big mad. I am fuming already.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the wildest things people have confessed to that turned out to be truly fake.
I was like, wait, I am confused about what we're doing
Truly
here.
fake. They turned out to be...
You got me with that one.
You
got me
I'm
good.
such a good actress. Okay. Despite what my husband
See? Yeah. See, Sean?
See? All right. So let's go ahead and start with number 1 on the list, the Central Park 5.
Let's do that.
Okay, we're not doing deep dives on these cases.
No.
We've got episodes on them in the backlog that you can check out on the show. And actually, there's going to be some stuff on here that we're not going to be able to talk about on YouTube. So if you want the full breakdown on some of these confessions, you're going to have to go join the Patreon to get the details of the confessions on these.
Yeah, because on YouTube, there's some info, but on the Patreon for this episode, you get all the info.
All of it.
All, yeah.
All right. So Central Park 5, high level, 1989, Trisha Mailey.
I think so.
I think it's Mailey. Was brutally assaulted while she was jogging in Central Park. 5 teenagers, Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, Antron McCrae, Yusuf Salam, and Corey Wise were arrested and interrogated. Important to note here, they were all either Black or Latino, and they were all under the age of 17 when this happened. So after hours of questioning without any sort of legal representation or their parents...
Again, all under 17.
All under 17. They ended up with contradictory coached confections.
Wow.
Not to be confused with pastries. Contradictory coached confessions and a 0 DNA match. Because we did have DNA in this case, right?
Just didn't happen to match any of the 5.
Yeah, that were there.
Yeah.
So they end up going to jail because they have confessed. They go to trial even, right? And they are found guilty. But in 2002, Mateus Reyes confesses his DNA does match. 100% match.
Yeah, big fat match.
Yeah, so that was great for the 5. They do end up getting exonerated, and they did later receive a $41 million settlement. And Yusuf Salam now actually serves on the NYC Council. So we love that for him.
Yeah.
But $41 million does not take away the fact that I have been falsely imprisoned. Right?
For a long time.
A long time.
Which, any time to be falsely imprisoned is too much time. But this happened in 1989, and they were not exonerated until the aughts.
Yeah, it was 2000. Well, 2002 is when this guy, when Mateus confesses and gets the DNA match, right? But in 2003 is when there's an Armstrong report that comes out that is from the police review panel that disagrees with who acted and how it happened. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. So let's get into how they got this false confession, right?
Yes.
And then we'll talk details, but we'll leave you out of it unless you come see us on Patreon. So high level, what happened? You've got minor kids. You have kids who are part of the minority population. They are either Black or Latino, right? And they are not allowed legal representation. Do they even know to ask for legal representation?
Of course not. You can Mirandize a minor.
Yeah.
And they don't know.
Well, what really infuriates me is, like, we don't allow minors to enter into contracts, right? Because we say they don't have the capacity, meaning they don't have the mental capacity, not that, they don't have the mental capacity to understand what is at stake when they are agreeing to these things.
Right.
Are there exceptions to these rules? Yes, there are. But as a general rule, minors don't have the capacity to enter a contract. Why would we allow them to enter into it's not a negotiation, but essentially that's what's happening here. This is, they are negotiating their innocence and their freedom.
And you also have to take into account the power dynamic.
Yeah.
These are police officers, they're grown-ups, and these are kids. That authority is there, it's established.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to do, if you've got a police officer saying, if you just tell me what happened, I'll help you out.
Yeah. And this goes on for hours. They are being held for extended amounts of time. They're asking for their parents. Their parents aren't allowed to come in. Who knows what else they're asking for? And do you know why we don't know? Because they didn't tape any of it. Right? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, I don't know. The minor children, it pisses me off.
Yes.
It infuriates me. It's like you had an axe to grind.
Uh-huh.
And then especially after we've got a DNA match. We have a DNA match and a confession to go with the DNA match. And this person's already in jail when he makes this confession, correct?
Yeah.
Do you know why? For being a serial rapist. What happened to the victim in this case?
Wait a second. Do they go together? I think they go together.
Really?
That was the whole thing.
Yeah. Police didn't seem to think so. But that's okay. Okay. Number 2 on the list. Are you ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. This one is less infuriating to me and more annoying.
Okay.
I watched a documentary about it. You watched a documentary about it. I'm sure that, I don't know, is it on a doc jam somewhere? The Confessions Killer?
Yes.
Okay.
Which, that docuseries was entirely too long.
Aren't they all?
I think it was 8 episodes.
Nuts.
Yeah.
If you don't know who the Confession Killer is, that would be Henry Lee Lucas. He was arrested in 1983 after confessing to hundreds of murders, the first of which had to do with his mother, right? So he confessed to killing his mother, and he ends up later confessing to, like, all of these other murders.
No, it's been a long time since I've done this docuseries. I think he did kill his mom?
He did.
Okay.
He did kill his mom.
And he killed another girl. He killed a girl that he, like...
Yes.
Had a crush on or something? She might have been way young.
Yeah. He was a murderer.
Yes. He was a murderer.
But not of the variety that they're trying to make it out to be.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So he initially confesses to the murder of his mother. Things spiral out of control. He starts confessing to hundreds of unsolved murders across multiple states.
Okay. And now I remember exactly how this came about.
Yeah.
He was in court for one of those murders. And they're like, okay, we sentence you or you plead or blah, 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 whatever. And then he goes, well, what about all the other killings I done? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like,
wait, what now?
murder? And he gets
a hint of attention, essentially. And I think when he says that, what about all of the other murders I've done or killings I've done? I'm sure he has killed other people.
Yes.
And I think he was probably thinking that, like, oh, I confessed to this one, so obviously they know about all the other ones now too, even though he hadn't said anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
But he sees them be like, wait, what? And now he's on a roll. And he can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah. And I mean, you could literally get this man to do anything for like a cigarette and a strawberry milkshake.
Yes. Yes. So he claims to be one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history.
Yep.
The Texas Rangers. Texas.
Oh.
Not of the Walker variety.
Walker would never.
Would he kick down your door? Yes. Would he take a false confession?
No.
But they're eager to close some unsolved cases, right? And he starts confessing because he's starting to get attention, and they are starting to realize the more attention we give him, the more confessions he makes. And so they're in like this weird cycle, right? They reward him with media attention, which he loves, steak dinners, who doesn't love that?
Right.
They take him on little mini road trips.
Yeah.
He gets, this man, I don't know who's manipulating who at this point.
Well, what's wild to me is they talk to some of these Texas Rangers in that documentary. They sit for these interviews and they are like, he just had a photographic memory. He could remember all the details from all these random murders. He remembered exactly what mile marker he stopped at to pick this woman up. And I'm like, do you think it had anything to do with you handed him the whole file before that? Like, it's insane.
It's wild. So it turns out, though, he confesses to all these murders, and he physically could not have done multiple of these because he would have had to have been in two places at one time.
Multiple places.
Yeah. One of them like took place in Japan or something, right? He was like, I drove there. Like,
they were like, well, how'd you get there? He's like, well, I drove my car. And they're like,
yep, makes sense.
Do you
write it down?
And like, look, bless his heart.
I know.
He was not the brightest crayon in the box.
He was not.
But they just ate it up.
They
did. Whatever he said, they went with it.
So obviously none of these confessions make sense. And then journalists and other people start looking into this and like fact checking the timelines and the travel records and all of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Texas authorities do eventually admit that these are false confessions and that dozens of cases have now been reopened. So that's great.
Also, now I'm remembering all the cases. Now, can you be a serial killer and sometimes use different methods or, whatever? Sure, weapons, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Literally every single one of them was like completely different. Your victimology was different.
If he did all of these, he is the most unpredictable serial killer to have ever existed.
Exactly.
Because even though serial killers, like in the beginning, they might have a little bit of an erratic pattern, but typically they settle into what is the thing that drives them. They have a specific victimology typically. They have a specific weapon or method of killing people. Like that is their thing.
Yeah.
He didn't have that. Well, he didn't have that.
No.
So he's convicted of 11 homicides, but he was only suspected to have actually committed a handful of them. His mother was one of them. I think, like you said, there was a girl he had a crush on or something. Like, he had some victims, but he was not this prolific serial killer.
No.
He died in prison in 2001, and his case has actually reshaped discussions on false confessions and investigative laziness. Because that is 100% what this was, investigative laziness. Like, they didn't even try.
Well, and I also think that part of it was the media attention that the Rangers were getting, too. I think they liked that because they started having all these other law enforcement agencies come in, and they would set up these, like, big things where, like, you've got people from 10 different jurisdictions coming in today to interview you, Henry, and then, like... But they got attention for it, too, because they're the ones that found him. And,
it was a weird, vicious cycle. I feel like I have a necklace on. No, it's not. Anyway, sorry. All right. Number 3, the Norfolk Four.
Okay.
So in 1997, 18-year-old Michelle Moore Bosco was found raped and murdered in her apartment in Norfolk, Virginia. Her husband returned from Navy duty and found her body. Police quickly zero in on Daniel Williams, who is a fellow Navyman, and they interrogate him for over 11 hours. He eventually breaks and confesses, even though the details don't match the crime scene.
Not even a little bit.
Nope. Police then end up pulling in 3 more Navy sailors, Joseph Dick, Eric Wilson, and Derek Tice. And I know you're going to elaborate on this in a minute because it's much wilder than what I'm telling you in this overview, I promise. Mm-hmm. They also end up confessing under coercive pressure. Their interrogations were intense, often involving threats of the death penalty, and promises of leniency as well if they confessed. None of their DNA matched the evidence. The real killer turns out to be Omar Ballard, who later confessed and his DNA matched. These 4 spent years in prison. Mm-hmm. And after years of advocacy, all men were eventually granted conditional or full pardons between 2009 and 2017. Actually in 2017, the Virginia governor, Terry McAuliffe, sorry, man, don't know, issued full pardons, officially acknowledging their innocence. And they have since received multi-million-dollar settlements. Their cases still remain textbook examples of the dangers of coerced confessions. So let's get into this because this brings in the military aspect of it. We don't talk about the military aspect, right? At least not in this overview. But I imagine that there were some ramifications if they were all active duty, right?
Yeah, and
at least the potential was there.
Right. And William Bosco, the husband, they were all enlisted. They were all active duty, weren't they? Because he was coming back from a week at sea.
And he found her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, number 4, Amanda Knox.
Oh, my.
Y'all.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So, high-level overview. Here we go. 2007, she's a British exchange student, Meredith Kircher is found murdered in Italy. Amanda Knox is her American roommate. Amanda has an Italian boyfriend named Raphael Celicito.
Yes.
All of our Italian people are going to tell us we're wrong. That's okay. We are doing our best. Okay, so Knox is questioned without an attorney and claims that she was slapped on the back of the head during the interrogation. So not only is she being interrogated, she's being physically assaulted while this is happening. Interviews stretch late into the night, and shockingly, they are in a language that she does not fully understand.
She's only been there
not long.
Yeah, not that long. She's an exchange student.
Yeah.
She doesn't fluently speak Italian.
Yeah. So she eventually ends up signing this statement that implicates herself and a local bar owner, Patrick Lumumba.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was her boss at the bar that she worked at.
Yeah. So implicates both of them. This becomes the cornerstone of the prosecution's case that she signed this confession, even though there's zero physical evidence tying her or the bar owner to the scene at all, right? So years later, DNA evidence points to Rudy Good.
A guy named I forget Rudy. How it's spelled.
Guede.
Guede.
Rudy. It points to
Rudy Guede.
Rudy Guede. Who was convicted in a separate trial.
Yes, he was.
And after years-long attempts to get this conviction overturned, lots of appeals, Knox does become definitively acquitted in Italy's highest court in 2015. She has returned to the U.S. and is an advocate for wrongfully accused individuals. She has spoken and written about her experience, and she also hosts a podcast and has written a memoir. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about her confession. First of all, you are in a foreign place, in a place where they don't speak the language that you speak natively. But, like, I would already be terrified to be in an interrogation in a foreign country where they don't speak the language that I speak. Although I would wager to guess that everyone in there also spoke English and they would not. Which, I mean, is fine, right? Because you are...
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. But anyway.
But if that's, in the legal system...
Exactly.
You would then get a translator or something.
Yeah.
Like, there should
have been an intermediary somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
But then you're there and it's scary already. It would be scary if it was happening in your own country. And then now they're also physically assaulting you while you're in there. They're just like smacking you and
again,
she was in college.
She was in college, and your brain can do some crazy things when you've not had sleep, when you don't have access to food and water. I mean, they don't give you anything until you tell them what they want. And again, I have to stress, interrogations are designed to get confessions.
Yeah.
They are not designed
they're not
get,
for the truth, therefore.
Oh, you don't know anything? And we've established that. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day. That's not what they're there for.
They're almost like, they're torture sessions, essentially. They can be. Mm-hmm. And listen, if you want me to confess to anything, let me get tired. Okay. We are down to our number 5 last case on our false confessions. And this one also infuriates me.
Yes.
For the same reason, because we're going to talk about kids again.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to talk about the West Memphis Three.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar, in 1993, the bodies of 3 8-year-old boys were found in a ditch in West Memphis, Arkansas. The community had been swept up into satanic panic because 'tis that time of year. And suspicion falls on these 3 local teenagers, Damian Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly. Mm-hmm. So Eccles was a goth kid. He wore black. He liked heavy metal. Obviously, he was very of the devil.
Yes, very clearly. He had black nail polish for crying out loud.
I mean, if anybody worshiped Satan, it was him.
It's 100%. A trench coat? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. But then there's Miss Kelly. Jesse Miskelly, not Miss Kelly.
No.
He was known to have a lower IQ that was around 72, and he was interrogated for over 12 hours without a parent or a lawyer present. Under pressure, he gives a confession that is filled with inaccuracies and contradictions, and despite a complete lack of physical evidence, he's coerced into a statement that is then used to convict all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Years later, DNA testing proves that there is no link, that there's only another unknown male. In 2011, they were released through Alford pleas, which allowed them to maintain their innocence while pleading guilty. And they had served 18 years. And Eccles had actually been on death row.
Mm-hmm. They hated Damian Eccles. Like, they decided... And I remember there was a guy who testified for the prosecution as an expert in the occult.
Oh.
And then it turned out... Now, this is the 90s, so he had taken the equivalent of an online course in the occult. Yep. What he had done was he mailed off for a book, you know?
Yeah.
It was like a correspondence course.
Yeah.
And he did one, and then that was it. And so the court qualified him as an expert in the occult, and he testified that, yes, this was a satanic ritual killing. And because Damian Eccles had black nail polish and wore black clothing, this man testified that is one of the main signs, basically, of somebody who is a Satan worshiper.
Of course.
And they found books about Wicca in Damian Eccles' trailer. That's not the same as satanic worship. Wiccan and Satanism are different.
They're different.
They just lumped them in together and were like, witchcraft.
We got our guy.
It's what? The 90s. The 90s.
Yeah. And, okay, so let's talk about these people and what was going on at the time, right? So obviously there's a satanic panic thing. obviously we've got 3 very young kids who, like, they had been out riding their bikes or something. Like, it was horrific. Okay, so let's wrap it up then. Why do people confess when they didn't do things? Police coercion and intimidation. And I would say, I mean, obviously in these situations we are talking about the police, so it would be police coercion. But a person in authority, in a position of authority over you, coercing you across the board, that's big time manipulation, no matter the scenario. So police coercion and intimidation, exhaustion, confusion, and isolation. They put you in a room. There's no windows. You don't know how long you've been here. You're tired. You're confused because maybe you didn't do it. So you're like, why the hell am I here? Maybe they let you sit there for 3 hours before they even come in the room. Like, all of these things are intimidation tactics, and all of them can be used to harm you.
They even do little stuff like they'll get close to you. They'll pull their chair up and
I would be like,
and they'll touch you. And they do that to intimidate you. They want to be physically intimidating. They want to pull up close to you and feel like you're boxed in, like you have nowhere to go. They say that.
Little do they know, all 5'4" of me is intimidated by very few people.
You're like, I'm fighting my way out of this.
I'm like, listen, the taller you are, the easier it's going to be for me to elbow you straight in the nuts. So
well, that's true.
Let's go.
Me, a little different.
But then that's assaulting a police officer, and that's also not good, so don't do that.
Yeah, no.
I'd think about it, though. Promises of leniency. So if you just tell us you can go home, if you just tell us we'll do blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, they'll offer to reduce your sentence, or they will the other way around. They'll say that we're going to pump it up, but, like, they don't get to choose the sentence.
Yeah, I was going to say, also, let's keep in mind that police officers, they
don't influence that.
They write down what happened, but it is the DA who decides the charges. So police officers do recommend charges. They'll be like, we think murder. We think blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But it is up to the district attorney, the prosecutor, will look at the facts of the case and see what fits.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, that's not to say that, like, if the police don't, like, maybe have a good working relationship. Like, I'm not saying they don't have any influence whatsoever, but, like, that's not their call to make. Like you said, like, the DA is going to make that call.
Yeah, they don't get to decide. The police don't get to decide.
No.
Well, if you just tell us, we'll drop this down to assault instead of like.
Exactly.
You don't get to do that. Sorry. No. Denying you legal counsel, or if you're a minor, denying your parents access to you. Not cool, man. Not cool. And then preying on your panic, your fear, and your trauma. And then, of course, once a confession is made, we have some prosecutors out there who treat it like it is the gospel, as if our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came down and wrote it down. So, yeah, even if there's DNA, be advised, it might not matter.
Yeah, it's not like an episode of Law and Order or CSI where, you know, the defendant is on trial and somebody busts in the room and says, wait a second, we got a DNA match with somebody else. And the judge is like, well, you're free to go. Like,
exactly.
You're looking at another few years probably.
Yeah. At least. Once the wheel starts spinning in that system, like, it is hard to get it to stop. Not impossible, but difficult. And all that to say, there are prosecutors out there who are really incredible.
Yes.
Who will not take cases that they know are... I don't want to say that they know they're not going to win, but essentially that they know they're not going to win. Like, they're not going to bring a case that they can't support.
Yes.
And there are also plenty of police officers out there who would never do any of this, and we love them, and that's great.
Correct.
But what do you think? Which one pissed you off the most?
Man, they all have a place.
They do.
The Central Park 5 is one that's up there for me. Just, also, I felt like they kind of manipulated the victim, too.
Yeah.
Because once they pulled these kids in...
They stopped looking elsewhere.
And I believe that she identified at least one of them. But she didn't know. No. I mean, you know, it's like... It's just the whole thing. They're minors. They are...
minorities.
Yes, they are. Yes, it's just There's
There were a
so
lot
much
of factors at play.
exploitation there.
Yeah.
What about you?
Central Park 5 is high on my list. Also West Memphis 3.
Mm-hmm.
For the same reasons of they were preying on
Yes.
a very vulnerable person and then taking down everyone with it because they could.
Yep.
Because who's going to stop them? And anyway. Let us know in the comments which one pissed you off the most.
Yes, please do.
And since you guys didn't get all of the juicy details about what exactly they confessed to, join us over on the Patreon and hear all of that. And then once you hear all of that, tell us over there what pissed you off the most.
Please do.
Because there's a lot and I'm mad about all of it.
Yes.
But we'll catch you next time for a different true crime story time.
Yes. They're different every time.
Different every time. Bye.
Bye.